What if the life you're living isn't one you chose, but one you've been unconsciously repeating? In this video, we expose the hidden law Owen Hermstring calls the code behind reality, the loop that silently shapes your identity, emotions, and outcomes. If you've ever felt stuck, trapped, or like nothing ever really changes, this will show you why, and how to finally break free by becoming the version of you that the cycle no longer recognizes. There's a myth that dominates the world of personal growth, the idea that we are constantly choosing our reality, that every morning we wake up with a blank slate and the power to create anything we want. But according to Owen Hermstring in The Law Behind the Laws, this idea is dangerously incomplete. He writes, "You are not choosing your life as much as you are repeating the vibration that built it." What he's pointing to is unsettling. We're not manifesting something new each day. We're looping. We wake up not in the present, but in a set of pre-programmed responses. Our thoughts aren't original. They're recycled from yesterday. Our emotions aren't spontaneous. They're conditioned. And our reality, as a result, becomes a mirror not of what we want, but of what we've habitually become. You don't attract based on desire. You attract based on frequency. And your frequency is not what you think it is. It's the emotional tone you consistently broadcast, often without realizing it. Hermstring calls this the unseen law, the silent script that's running beneath the surface of your life. It's what causes different people in the same situation to experience completely different outcomes, because they're not reacting to what's happening. They're reacting from the field they're already carrying. This explains why you can change jobs, relationships, cities, or even beliefs, and still find yourself in the same emotional cycle. Because the frequency hasn't changed. The law hasn't been broken. It's still running in the background, like a looped track playing through your nervous system. It doesn't care about what you want. It reflects what you've been trained to expect. Hermstring emphasizes this point. Until you disrupt the frequency, the loop owns you. You can dream all you want, but it's your signal that builds the walls of your life. In other words, your current reality is not personal. It's programmed. It's a feedback system that simply responds to the data you've been feeding it over years, decades, maybe even generations. So the goal isn't to wake up one day and try to force new outcomes. The goal is to become aware of the pattern, because awareness is the crack in the system. When you begin to notice that your reactions, emotions, and expectations are automated, you stop identifying with them. And the moment you stop identifying with the loop, you stop feeding it. This isn't easy. It requires honesty, radical honesty. You have to admit that some of what you're living isn't your choice. It's your repetition. But in that admission lies power. Because if you've built a reality based on unconscious code, you can build a new one with conscious intention. But first, you must see the law. You must feel the weight of the loop, not to fear it, but to break it. One of the most frustrating feelings in life is the sensation of wanting to change and doing everything you believe should work, but watching nothing around you actually shift. You meditate, you visualize, you work harder, you tell yourself you're ready, but deep down, the patterns keep returning. The same emotions, the same setbacks, the same results. According to Owen Hermstring in The Law Behind the Laws, the reason this happens is both simple and uncomfortable. Reality doesn't follow your desires. It follows your identity. Your identity, as Hermstring explains, isn't who you consciously say you are. It's the energetic blueprint encoded in your subconscious, the invisible self-image you carry into every experience, every room, every decision. It's how your nervous system has been taught to interpret the world. It's the emotional frequency you've practiced for so long, it now runs on autopilot. And until that blueprint changes, your external world remains obedient to it, no matter how much effort you apply on the surface. This is what creates the illusion of being stuck. It's not that you're blocked by some outside force. You're cycling through a closed loop that's being reinforced by your own energy. You may think you're moving forward, but if your identity is still anchored in fear, shame, lack, or unworthiness, your frequency emits that, and life reflects it back like a perfect mirror. Hermstring refers to this as the field of familiarity. Your reality wants to keep you safe, not expansive, and your identity defines what safe means. For some, chaos feels safe because it's familiar. For others, disappointment is more comfortable than hope because at least it's predictable. So even as you chase change, your subconscious field is programmed to reject anything unfamiliar, even if that unfamiliar thing is better for you. This is why people sabotage opportunities. It's why success feels scary. It's why love, once received, is pushed away. Not because you don't deserve better, but because your identity can't hold it yet. And the law Hermstring exposes is ruthless in this way. Your life will not grow beyond your self-image, not permanently, not sustainably. So how do you escape this loop? Not by pushing harder, not by proving yourself, but by becoming deeply aware of the identity you've been wearing and slowly choosing a new one, not with force, but with repetition, with emotional rehearsal, with presence. Hermstring writes, change doesn't happen when you say you're ready. It happens when the old self no longer feels like home. That moment, when your current identity feels outdated, too tight, no longer livable, that's the beginning of the shift. And when you begin to broadcast a new internal signal, life responds differently. Not because life has changed, but because you did. It's easy to talk about raising your vibration. People speak about aligning with abundance, attracting love, or stepping into their power as if it's a matter of mindset alone. But anyone who's tried to shift their energy knows the truth. Something keeps pulling you back. You rise for a moment, then collapse. You feel free, then suddenly you're triggered again. According to Owen Hermstring in The Law Behind the Laws, this is not just a lack of discipline, it's the work of emotional anchors. Hermstring writes, frequency is not held up by intention, it's held down by what hasn't been felt. That line alone reframes everything. What he's pointing to is simple. Your vibration isn't stuck because you're not trying hard enough to be positive. It's stuck because your system is still tied to unresolved emotional memory. These are not just thoughts. These are imprints, moments from your past that have become energetic weights embedded in your nervous system, influencing your every interaction, your every expectation, without you even realizing it. These emotional anchors can come from trauma, neglect, betrayal, humiliation, or even subtle conditioning, like being told you're too much or never enough. Each anchor is like a coded message stored in your body. You're not safe. Love is dangerous. Success leads to loss. Abundance brings abandonment. These beliefs become truths, not because they are true universally, but because your system remembers them emotionally. What's dangerous is that these anchors operate in silence. You might consciously want to expand, but your frequency is still carrying the signal of contraction. You might visualize wealth, but your anchor screams survival. You might call in love, but your anchor still expects pain. And because the universe mirrors your dominant frequency, it responds to the anchor, not the affirmation. Hermstring emphasizes that no matter how beautiful your vision is, if the emotional basement of your being is still filled with fear, grief, or shame, that's the music you're sending out. And reality dances to that song, not to punish you, but because the energetic field is precise. It reflects not what you wish for, but what you embody. The way out isn't to ignore these anchors, it's to bring them into the light, not to fight them, but to feel them fully, without judgment. Hermstring says, the energy you feel is the energy you free. That means healing isn't thinking differently. It's letting the body process what it was forced to store alone. That's how the anchor begins to loosen. That's how your vibration lifts. Not from pushing, but from unburdening. You can't rise while carrying the weight of who you used to be. Letting go is not forgetting the pain. It's allowing the energy of that pain to move, finally, so you can broadcast something new, something cleaner, freer, lighter. Only then can the universe hear the version of you it's been waiting to meet. Most people try to change their lives by doing more. More effort, more affirmations, more strategy, more control. But Owen Hermstring makes it clear in The Law Behind the Laws that the first real disruption to any limiting pattern is not effort, it's awareness. You can't break what you haven't noticed, he writes, and you can't replace what you haven't fully seen. In other words, your patterns can't be outworked, they must be outwitnessed. The problem is that the subconscious programming controlling your life doesn't show up as a problem. It shows up as normal. Your default way of reacting, your emotional baseline, your inner commentary, they all feel familiar, automatic, and therefore invisible. This is how the code stays hidden. It runs beneath conscious thought, shaping your identity, your expectations, and even your perception of what's possible. Hermstring calls this the inherited field, a mixture of your childhood conditioning, emotional memory, and environmental frequency. And as long as you're unaware of it, you live by it. Not because you choose to, but because it's all you've known. You aren't repeating it on purpose. You're repeating it because your system thinks it's the safest option. This is why awareness is such a powerful first step. It doesn't fix everything instantly, but it disrupts the illusion that your experience is just how life is. Suddenly, you notice the emotional contraction you feel when someone compliments you. You see the way you shrink when money is mentioned. You hear the voice that doubts you before you even begin. These moments of observation are the cracks in the matrix, and that's where choice returns. Hermstring emphasizes that this level of self-awareness must be non-judgmental. The moment you attack your patterns, you reinforce them. If you meet them with shame, you give them more energy. But if you meet them with presence, calm, curious, steady presence, you start to separate from them. You realize, this isn't who I am, this is just the code I've been carrying. That recognition is the first true act of freedom. Because the moment you can watch your frequency instead of becoming it, your vibration begins to loosen. You shift from being the program to being the observer of the program. And the observer has power. The observer can choose. The observer can respond instead of react. The observer can rewrite the field. You don't have to fix all your problems today. You don't have to erase the past or force yourself into high vibration. But you can pause. You can pay attention. You can bring your automatic reactions into the light and begin to question them. That's how the code breaks. Gently, quietly, truthfully. Because awareness isn't passive, it's disruptive. It's the moment your field starts to shift from echo to clarity. And from that place, change stops being an uphill battle and starts becoming inevitable. By now, it's clear that your reality is not built by what you want, but by what you transmit. The patterns you repeat, the emotional states you live in, the energy you carry, these are the codes that shape your external world. So if you want a different life, you don't need to manipulate the outside. You need to rewrite the field. And according to Owen Hermstring in The Law Behind the Laws, that rewriting must happen from within, not with effort, but with coherence. The field doesn't respond to intention alone, Hermstring writes. It responds to identity, emotionally encoded. Nay, that means it's not enough to say, I want abundance, or even to feel inspired for a few minutes a day. Your field changes when you consistently embody the emotions of the version of you who already lives in that reality. It's not about pretending, it's about becoming. So what does it mean to recode your frequency? It starts with emotional alignment. If your thoughts are focused on success, but your nervous system is still trained in fear, there's a contradiction. The field reflects the dominant vibration, and in most people, that dominant signal comes from the body, not the mind. So the work begins by building emotional fluency. This means learning to generate feelings like safety, worthiness, and peace without external evidence. Not waiting for life to give you a reason to feel good, but choosing to feel good as your default signal. Hermstring suggests rehearsing your future self emotionally, not just mentally. That version of you, the one who is grounded, clear, fulfilled, already exists as a potential, but to bring it into form, you must match its frequency. You don't become a new self by talking about it, he says. You become it by making your body believe it's already true. One powerful tool he teaches is energetic repetition. Instead of repeating words, repeat feelings. Sit in the sensation of gratitude. Rest in the energy of confidence. Practice joy like a skill. These repeated emotional signals begin to overwrite the old field, not by pushing out the past, but by diminishing its relevance. At first, it may feel awkward. Your system will resist. It will try to pull you back into the familiar. But if you stay consistent, if you breathe through the discomfort and stay loyal to the new signal, something subtle begins to shift. Your thoughts start to reorganize. Your posture changes. People respond differently. Opportunities seem to find you. And it's not magic. It's resonance. It's the field reflecting back the identity you've chosen to embody. This is what Hermstring means when he says, you are not becoming more powerful. You are remembering the power your field was always capable of carrying. Rewriting the field is not about adding something new. It's about removing interference and stabilizing in the truth of who you were meant to be. Free, magnetic, untangled. The world doesn't need you to try harder. It needs you to broadcast with clarity. The ultimate goal of every spiritual or personal transformation journey is freedom. Not just freedom from pain or struggle, but freedom from the repetitive loops that make life feel like it's always circling back to the same place. But as Owen Hermstring teaches in The Law Behind the Laws, liberation doesn't come from fixing your life. It comes from no longer being the version of yourself that the loop applies to. He writes, you don't escape the cycle by resisting it. You escape it by becoming someone for whom the cycle is irrelevant. This is a radical idea, that the world around you doesn't have to change first. You do. And more importantly, not just in your habits or routines, but at the level of identity. Because identity isn't just who you think you are. It's the energetic frequency you consistently embody, the signal the universe responds to without fail. So the question becomes, who are you being? Not who do you want to be, not who are you pretending to be, but what version of you is currently broadcasting to the world? Are you still walking through life as the one who was hurt, the one who was abandoned, the one who was rejected or overlooked or told to stay small? If so, the loop will continue, because the field reflects identity, not potential. Hermstring explains that true liberation is subtle. It doesn't look like fireworks or massive life events. It looks like no longer reacting the way you used to. It looks like holding peace in the face of tension, choosing joy when you'd normally shut down, saying no without guilt, walking away without collapse. These small shifts signal to the universe that something fundamental has changed. The loop loses its hook. The old energy can't stick to a new identity. This is why you don't need to chase healing forever. At a certain point, you don't need to fix the wound. You just need to stop identifying as the one who was wounded. Not to ignore your past, but to rewrite your relationship with it. Hermstring says, your trauma doesn't define you. Your loyalty to it does. And liberation is when loyalty shifts. So how do you shift? You decide. Every single day, you show up not as someone waiting for proof, but as someone already aligned with the truth. You stop asking, when will it change? And start embodying, I have already changed. From that place, reality recalibrates, circumstances fall into alignment. The energy that used to chase you dissolves because the frequency it resonated with no longer exists. And that's the moment you realize you didn't just change your life, you became someone new, someone the old loops no longer recognize, someone the field responds to differently. Someone whose liberation was never about escape, it was always about identity alignment. If this message shifted something inside you, don't let it fade. It means your field is already beginning to change. Subscribe now to go deeper every week into Hermstring's teachings and uncover the hidden patterns shaping your life. This isn't about motivation, it's about transformation. Stay with us, stay aware, and let each video help you broadcast a clearer, freer, more powerful version of yourself. The shift starts here,